This was supposed to be one single hour and a half episode. Welcome back, Josh. Let's get to know your thoughts and recap some things since you left. Yeah, it's just an hour on one topic. So I guess welcome back, Josh. Aaron actually did. Aaron's the one who asked for it.
I didn't initiate.
He didn't run it by me even first. He just asked.
I asked you in the asking.
I know.
I said no.
Like I'm going to say no to Josh.
I would.
Why would you say no to Josh?
Oh.
What has Josh done to you that you would say no to him?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
All right.
My friend.
Are you going to talk like that?
Yes, I will.
Here at Use Your Words Podcast, none of us are knowingly foolish. Okay, Troll.
Yeah, we have thousands of years of architecture we can go over.
Would you build your house on rock or sand?
Knowing Brewer? Sand, because it's cheaper.
Of course, sand.
Oh, welcome to Use Your Words Podcast. I am joined once again by, it was described to me at a restaurant, my brother, apparently, Mr. Aaron Johnson.
Oh, yeah, hi.
And then we're also joined by the person I describe as my mother, but in a male body and younger, Mr. Josh Brewer.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, no. This is going to be the worst.
And apparently he has decided that he is an elderly British man who is very prim and proper. Then that's how he has to talk now.
Proper prim, you mean? Proper prim.
I want to see how long you can actually keep that up because I doubt you could.
No.
Because
no.
Accepted challenge.
No.
How about
accepted challenge? Just challenge accepted.
You fool. It's proper and prim. Get that pinky out. What are you doing? You do not drink with your pinky in.
What has happened, Aaron?
I'm sorry.
We've lost all control already.
What? I shouldn't have asked. I'm sorry.
This all happened because Aaron's like, "Hey, Josh, what are you doing Sunday? Do you want to join us?"
He's not working. He's free. He's kind of else to do.
Well, he's working his new job, but he's not working on Sundays. What you're meaning? That's what you mean. Yes, I get it, but at the same time, I'm just like, oh, okay. And then we got Josh. And then we got Mr. Prim and Proper over here who has joined us once again.
Proper prim.
Sure. Well, I cannot wait to get his thoughts on a few things then now, because of if he's going to talk this prim and proper and be this much of a, I don't know, evil Bond villain gentleman, then I guess we'll see how some of these statements will come out from him.
Not ready.
You're not ready?
No.
Oh, there's so many things that you cannot be ready for, and this is definitely one that you should be ready for. Because, Mr. Johnson, I want to hear your thoughts on these things too, as well, obviously.
I don't have thoughts. I do have thoughts, but it always comes later after I'm supposed to.
Is this another earwax situation?
No, yeah, I know. I was thinking about that as soon as I said that. No, it's one of those things where we talk about this now, and then I just it takes me like another day or two to really chew things over to have thoughts on stuff.
This is why I sent out a document the other day.
Yeah, I know, and I looked at it.
Okay, good.
I did, but
did you read any of the articles?
A little bit, but it's like when you start talking.
Yeah.
And then I
Then you what?
I don't do well with that.
You don't do well with talking?
No.
Why not?
You're doing fine right now.
But see, no.
this prim and proper thing is throwing me off a little bit. It's not right because
it doesn't match.
Exactly. We both know Josh. We're both looking at him in his Hunter Orange right now, and Hunter Orange plus prim and proper does not equal reality.
No.
There's a contradiction here between the two things, and I don't know if I like it or not. But
and then you just know how Josh is normally, so.
Yeah, that's another way I describe you, Josh. I don't know if you know that or not. I call you the northern redneck. You're like turning into a redneck in front of my very eyes every time I see you. More and more and more redneckish. It's entertaining to me.
And it's wearing off on me.
Compliment or not, I cannot decide.
It's a compliment. Take it.
Sure, go with it.
Take it.
Take it.
Take it. It's a compliment.
Don't question if it's a compliment or not. Just take it as what it is. It's because every time I see Josh nowadays, he's more and more into his hunting and more into his Hunter Orange and more into that sort of lifestyle. You know, the last time I was over, well, no, not the last time. 2 times I was over there, he gave us brats, venison brats, which were good.
Ooh,
don't get me wrong.
yes.
They were good. Why are you getting your cleaver?
Never know if I need it or not.
Against what?
This Prim and Proper kid. I don't know.
Yes, Wild Prim and Proper is going to jump you.
No, I'm just gonna use it to
Shave your knuckles again?
Well, the more
Cut your
He
fingers again?
the more he drives me nuts, the more he loses by the time he leaves. Before he leaves.
And here's the part I need to delete before it gets to the jury.
May the sacrifice begin.
We just talked about all that.
Oh, this is
See,
off,
that can't be a thing.
this is off to a record great
that can't
start.
be a thing, because then you can't have comedy. You can't have joking happen.
The question is, you have to define if that's a joke or not. And
Well, of course it is. I've never harmed him like that in all my years of knowing him.
but you harmed him in other ways, haven't you?
Duh.
I'm just kidding.
What? I was like, wait a minute. Shoot, have I? Emotionally.
Okay. Wow.
Josh is back for today.
We bring back Josh and just everything goes off the rails immediately. I'm impressed. Josh, your presence
He's got a
is
smile.
I've done good.
Job accomplished.
good. I'm glad you thought you did good, because this week we're going to get Josh's thoughts on a few things, since it's been a little while since we've caught up with him, and I want to hear some of his thoughts. So, Josh, I've given you 4 things that I want to get your thoughts on as we catch up with you on what you've been doing and everything. Which one would you like to start with first? Because 2 of them are related to guns. One's abortion, and one is sending money to other countries. I love Aaron's reaction. He's just like, jeez.
This is gonna be great. This is gonna be rough.
Well, depending on how this goes, I may break this one up into 2.
Oh, I can easily see that.
Let's start with money.
With money. Wow. I'm actually surprised you wanted to start with the money one. Wow. Okay. Beautiful. I will go with this. So, yes. So, in our wonderful budget that is going through Congress and that Biden wants to get signed and all that fun stuff, there is tons of money, millions of dollars for other countries to reinforce their own borders. A lot in the Middle East, especially in that, of course.
Yeah.
And I find it ironic and funny that is happening, that we're sending all this money overseas to shore up everyone's borders.
Make sure that they're all taken care of and secure, but
And at the same time, what did they just basically, I guess you could say, cancel here?
the wall.
The wall.
Well, the wall is, yes, but what, I guess you could say, procedure or rule that was in place from the previous administration that just got basically said, this is done with now?
The deportation of illegals, or
Title 42?
whatever
Yeah,
that
it is.
Title
There it is.
42. I don't know.
So do you know what? So okay,
No.
so you don't know what Title 42 is. Okay,
No.
Josh, do you know what Title 42 is?
I'm guessing he does. How he reacted to it.
I know it was a process in vetting people as they tried to cross over. I don't know any of the specifics.
Yeah. So Title 42, it's a code, just so it's a U.S. code,
Yeah.
essentially for border crossing, and they tied it to public health and welfare.
Mhm.
So under Section 256 of the code, the Surgeon General, or in this case, the Director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, can prohibit the entry of non-citizens in the interest of public health if there is a quarantinable communicable disease, aka COVID, in a foreign country in serious danger that it could be introduced into the United States, aka COVID continued to be spread in the United States. So when Trump was in power, he enacted Title 42 to essentially halt or slow down as much as possible immigration from the southern border, both legally and illegally, doing as much as possible there. And the Biden administration came recently and said, no, we're not going to deal with it. We're not going to deal with that anymore. We're going to revoke that because apparently the pandemic is over. If you listen to everyone nowadays, the pandemic is over. Everyone celebrated and yay. Oh wait, there's 2 more pandemic waves coming that they're predicting where we're going to have to mask up again.
Nope.
They're predicting one early summer and then one in the fall. Now,
Bruh.
so yeah,
What's it called now?
Oh, it's going to be
It's still COVID, but
Yeah,
what's the
I think-
variant now?
I think the new one is XE.
I mean, no matter where you stand politically, I mean, it just makes sense that, if you're worried about the security of the state,
Mhm.
okay, and people are coming in and there's a pandemic going around, or let's say another country has this outbreak and it's only happening in that country, you wouldn't want people coming in here and possibly spreading it here. The more people you have in here, the more people can spread it. Therefore, the faster it can hit, the less time we have prepared. So, regardless of where you stand, Title 42 makes sense. I mean, I would agree if Democrats wrote it, it makes sense. If Republicans wrote it, if an independent wrote it, it would make sense. So for them to end it just doesn't make sense. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Title 42 should be in place, period. It shouldn't be a temporary thing. It should be part of the standard vetting procedures. If there is an outbreak of something in that country, everybody should be put through due process to determine whether or not they should enter. I mean,
So Title 42 is actually part of the Public Health Services Act of 1944. So it's around for a long time. It's just when do they choose to enforce it? In this case, COVID being the communicable disease that it is what they chose to say, that's what we're going to go ahead and enforce this now. And essentially, and so as part of this, so they gave essentially emergency powers to the Border Patrol to, instead of like quarantine them or keeping them, in a I'll use the common colloquialism, however you say that word, cage, as they say, in in holding centers and that. So instead of doing that, they could immediately kick them right back over the border under this Title 42 emergency powers.
which makes sense.
So that's why I was just like, yeah. But yeah, apparently we're in the spot now.
In my opinion, Title 42 should be enacted at any point in time there is any point of potential threat of a widespread disease, period. If that means bring it on every few months, bring it on every few months. If it means bring it on every few years, okay, cool. I'd rather it only have to be brought on every few years because that would indicate we don't have widespread diseases like that.
Yeah, and the way we're at now, we should enact that probably every fall during flu season and every summer and winter during COVID season. These are our new seasons we live with. Yay.
You know what?
And I'll say this. So the bill that was passed in 1944, that was passed by the 115th United States Congress, which was Republican majority at that time. So it was probably the Republican Party that did that. So that's going to be entertaining to watch as that goes on. I just found it funny that as that was going through, all these people were like, "Oh yes, end it." And now it's starting to come up of like, "Oh, we're ending it. Sweet. What do we do to replace Title 42 now with all this?"
Well, I mean, in reality, I mean, Title 42 is just a given power, so I don't necessarily think there needs to be a replacement.
Well, the Democratic representatives of Arizona think they do. They think they need something they're opposing ending the policy without a comprehensive workable plan in place.
Well, I mean, okay, and in that sense, it makes. I guess it's the context in which replacing Title 42, is it like a permanent policy that they're talking about, which probably is what they are, considering they are a border state, versus just something that's only enacted. I think they're probably looking at something that they can choose to enact when they want to choose it.
So right now, okay, so the Title 42, it's enacted by the federal government again when it sees a considerable disease thing. Okay. So it's not, they're not saying we don't want the law removed. They just don't want the law from being enforced right now, which it is at this point in time. So Mark Kelly and Kristen Sinema from Arizona are the ones opposing that. And they've actually introduced a bill to prevent Biden from ending 42 until the COVID national emergency declaration is lifted. Because that technically still isn't lifted at this point in time.
That makes sense.
So they want to tie the two together, which I think actually makes sense to do that.
Oh, I do too. I mean, if you haven't officially said it's over, then why are you lifting something that allows protection to be in place?
Well, because everyone else thinks it's over per se, based on, and I put "it's over" in quotes because I've lived like it's over for a while now, but a lot of people are still living like COVID's going to come and attack them and drag them into an alley
right at their door.
Well, I was driving to church this morning. I was going down Highway 20. There was a guy walking along the side of the street. Well, it's not exactly cold out nowadays, so
no.
But he's wearing a mask while walking along the side of the street. I'm like, you realize that mask is not going to do anything to help you with, because there's no one around you, and it's just car exhaust.
Right. Well, he's just keeping himself from breathing in the harmful chemicals from the exhaust.
That may be his thought, because that is actually a common thing in big cities down south.
Down south, as in like south of the United States, or down south in like
Houston. You'll see people wearing masks if they're walking along traffic. I've heard stories of it because there's so much. For example, what was it? I'm pretty sure there's stuff on YouTube about it. When I was younger, back in middle school, we actually had a thing to where we were. It was talking about pollution and stuff, and how you, in a sense, could walk along the highway down in Houston wearing a white shirt. By the time you get home, it's no longer white because of all the soot from the cars and stuff. So,
well, I'd say it was funny driving to Denver, Colorado, from being in Estes Park.
Yeah,
you get to see that the classic city smog kind of around the city. I'm like, yeah, that's gross.
yeah, I could see like maybe on the heavy, pollution days, especially if you have something like asthma or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the quote unquote medical masks that we have been wearing for COVID aren't the same as smog masks. Those are actually special masks.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And you can
every mask has a specific reason for it.
Yeah, because
it's
the size and what it can let through and all that other stuff.
Right.
The last time I wore a mask for COVID, geez Louise, I can't even tell you when. It's been a long time. I think it was when I got my COVID shot, because they still made me wear a mask to get the shot, even though I didn't have to wear a mask in the store. It was dumb.
Or let's not forget about this. My one teacher kind of poked fun at it. So, at the school that I'm at, we had a class have like 3 or 4 people that got COVID at the same time. And the school was like, yikes, let's pull the plug. So they pulled the plug on that class. And their primary teacher, but they still had another teacher.
Right.
That worked with that class.
Oh, of course.
And that teacher also was in the hallway. I was in the hallway with this class too.
Yeah.
But none of us had to go home because, COVID stops at that classroom door.
Yeah. What they really do is they say it's the exposure time back when the COVID, whenever it's like, am I at risk of getting COVID if I was around someone who had it? They're like, were you in with them around like more than 15 minutes? Then, because 15 minutes apparently is the magic number for COVID to drill into your body.
Let's not
forget about restaurants, though. Let's not forget about restaurants.
Those are fine.
Yeah, COVID doesn't exist in restaurants.
No,
that's the beauty of it. It doesn't like food.
No.
As soon as food hits the table, it's like, boom, it's gone.
Yeah, I remember when we were in Chicago.
Oh my goodness!
Place, and it's like you had to wear one unless you're sitting at a booth. Then you can take it off. It's like
because the booth is magical.
Yeah, it's got barriers for COVID.
The restaurants that could stay open because of the square footage, which I thought was total BS too.
Of course it is.
Because, like, for example, when you look at Menards and they actually tell you the amount of people that they can legally have in the building,
Yeah.
it's in the thousands.
Yep.
But the actual amount of square footage that is usable should knock that number down to at least half, if not 2/3. Because once you take all the stuff, like if you put somebody in an aisle and you got to have 6 feet between each person, you're maybe getting 3 people per aisle. You know, I mean, when you actually look at a 6-foot minimum radius from you, that's a 12-foot diameter circle that you have to have around you. You really don't have any room. But anyways, going back to the restaurants.
Dang it.
When I remember going to a restaurant shortly after COVID had finally changed the way that we do things. It's not like, oh, what is this? It's like, all right, this is what we got to do. You got to have 6 feet, got to have a mask, got to, this is after it's been out for a few months. I was at a restaurant, and I remember being sat with 2 booths in between me and the next group of people.
Okay.
And then I kid you not, I felt like suddenly 4 months later, I was at another restaurant. Somebody was at my back. It's like out of nowhere, restaurants either didn't have to do it or they weren't listening to the rules and were literally sitting people booth to booth to booth.
Really?
Yeah. And I was just like, I was so confused by that. And I remember that because it's just like, so we go from 6 feet in public to now I can sit back to back with somebody in a booth. And I don't even have to have my mask on when I sit down.
See, that booth was blessed by the magic druid of the local woods, and therefore it prevents the spread of COVID.
Well, outside of your...
That'll explain
right?
The pine cones on the ground in there.
There you go.
That makes sense.
What places are you going to eat at?
He's going to vegan hippy dippy restaurants.
Hey, what floats your boat, right?
Oh, gosh. Sure. Yeah. Man, I just watched some vegan lady on YouTube with my nephew, and wow, it was...
Why were you watching a vegan lady on YouTube?
Because he thought it was funny, and it was horrible.
Wait, you thought it was funny, or he thought?
He thought, no, it was funny. It was just like ridiculous how strange she was, but that's
neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get back to the topic at hand. Border walls, borders, and sending money to other countries for their own borders.
Yeah, that's
the thing. What I figured out before the pandemic, and for those of you who do or don't agree, you can do your own research. But our border security, it's all been politically driven.
I agree with that 100%.
You don't?
I said I will.
Oh, sorry.
I know. That's why I repeated myself when you started questioning.
This has been going on for over 30 years. There's a way to do it. There's proof that it works a certain way at the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't instigated it because it is a reason of vote. And for those of you who want more definition on what I mean by reason of vote, it is something that pivots whether you vote for this party or the next. That's what these parties have been focused on more than anything in probably the last 12 years is finding ways to get people emotional to the point that they actually will vote and be a one-choice voter. So whether it's guns, abortion, border security, low-income benefits, they find something that makes you tick in the most emotional way possible, and they try to use that as their leverage. That's why each party has their specific things that they target as being their dominant reasons why you should vote for them. Imagine this. Imagine if Republicans were suddenly pro-abortion, anti-Second Amendment, anti-border security, and Democrats became pro-Second Amendment, pro-border security, and anti-abortion.
People would flip. At least if that's their issue.
Correct. At least if that's their issue. Which most people, you would see probably something. Or if they did it overnight, everybody would be like, what the heck's going on? But
Yeah, if that happened like overnight, everyone would go, "What the heck's going on?" And I would have to agree. And honestly, I would probably be in a tough situation. I would have to probably switch. It's not that I'm a one issue voter myself. It's just all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, you're anti Second Amendment now, anti this, everything that's antithetical to what I believe in. I I can't go with you now. So now let's say if it was just literally one issue, you know, one issue being guns, let's say, that flipped, but everything else stayed the same. That'd make it a little bit harder to decide what to do at that point. At that point, which I think should happen anyway, at that point you have to analyze who the actual person is that's being elected and analyze all their positions and take I guess you could say, the best of the worst between all of them.
It's kind of figure that's something we're supposed to do anyways.
Yeah, I think that's what we're supposed to do anyways.
Right.
But yes, I agree. That's something we should do, is not analyze the one issue. And to Josh's point, there are a lot of one issue voters that will vote for, the person comes on and says, I am pro guns, anti-abortion, and they will be
Boom,
like,
got my vote.
boom, I am going to vote for you no matter what, no matter if they are a creep that cheats on their wife and does
that's
all this other
messed up.
stuff.
Yeah, I'd
Or
rather vote for someone that also has good character as well as having my same values.
which makes it hard for me sometimes, because there's some guys out there, on the Republican side who, it's like, okay, you have the right, quote unquote, public values, pro-gun,
but
anti-abortion.
Scum as a person.
Well, and yeah, or there's accusations against him, so there haven't been proven. So take, for example, for like Matt Gaetz and that, him, some of the accusations against him about the sexual misconduct and harassment and that. And then what's his face? The guy in the wheelchair from North Carolina, I believe it is.
Oh,
Cawthorn or whatever.
Yeah.
Cawthorn, the guy in the wheelchair, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's Cawthorn, but like him, right? Again, very much like I was just listening to a podcast that he was on, a very, what was it? Warrior Poet Society. Don't know if you've ever listened to them. Yeah.
No.
Because I think he was being interviewed by them.
They have a YouTube channel.
Yeah. And he was being interviewed by them, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, dude, you're the guy that lasted like 6 months with your wife because you didn't want to take the time or energy to make it work.
Yeah, that's...
And I was like, so for the one issue voters, they're like, yes. And then I'm sitting there going,
but do you know what this person's like?
But then I have to also go back to the fact of which is the better of the two evils, I guess you could say.
Well, okay, yeah. I guess as far as
him
voting
versus
for someone that you don't agree with politically or whatever, and then voting for the person that you do agree with, but you just don't like him as a person. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, the whole, holding your nose while voting for them.
Yeah. No, yeah.
It was the same thing with Trump. It was holding the nose while voting. It was the better of the two evils. And
for that case, yeah.
And especially now you look at it and you're like, oh, look, Biden even know where he's at 3/4 of the time?
I almost felt bad for the guy, seeing that I don't know, was it the party or whatever that thing was, but where Barack Obama came back in.
Oh, yeah.
Like nobody paid attention to Biden whatsoever. At least, obviously, a couple clips that, you see, and he's just like kind of like walking around like,
I was listening.
Oh.
I think it was Education I was listening to, and the guy was going, "Oh, look, Obama's tired of working from home." So he came into the office for a day.
Well, he's been doing a terrible job this time so far then too.
Well, at least he hasn't gone to Will Smith levels.
Oh my gosh. Hey, we can't. Well, okay, you can talk about that. I can't talk about that though.
Oh, because you're white? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Both of you are so porcelain white, it's ridiculous. It's like I'm sitting in a snowfield out here.
Let me help.
No, I do not want your dandruff, sir. But yes, I know. I've seen that too. I've seen how the Will Smith slap was due to racism and...
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah. So they're blaming the Will Smith slap on racism now.
Why?
Because it's a white person's fault.
What?
Don't have time to get into the argument right now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. What the heck?
All right, Brewer has something to say again.
So back to the whole border wall thing.
Yes,
I'm not even the one going off on a tangent right now. This is impressive.
it's the Josh effect.
It's my natural aroma. I got it. So going to the whole border, giving funds to other countries, because what was it? How much was it? I think it was $1 trillion plan written up.
Yeah.
But I think it ended up being $1 billion, in a sense, donation.
Yeah, of course.
To other countries to help improve their border. I understand. I do get this. I do get the idea of sending funds to allow someone else, in a sense, to deal with our problems. That's what we're doing with the whole Ukraine thing. We're sending all these weapons to Ukraine
Mhm.
to allow them to fight a war for us so we don't have to.
Right.
Okay.
We're using Ukraine as a proxy war because
Pretty much.
if NATO were to directly get involved, that would create a whole other host of issues.
Absolutely. And now that, what was it? What country just went in? A country rolled in with tanks.
Oh, I am not aware of that right now off the top of my head.
Yeah, a country just rolled in with tanks, and they are a part of NATO, to my knowledge.
Oh, great. So we're declaring war through that as well.
To me, they're not rolling it to the front lines. They're rolling it to a point. So pretty much,
For like support kind of thing.
well, if we were in Ukraine, which we probably are, we probably got agents in Ukraine. Because apparently during the years that Ukraine and Russia were having this little skirmish, we actually had agents and officers over there helping to train their their quote unquote militia. We are helping to train their units to better fight and resist against Russian forces. Back when it was just kind of like there was no man's land. It was just sniper warfare and artillery warfare. That's, I mean, originally what it's been for years upon years upon years.
Right.
There's never really been any actual advancement except for the separatist forces, aka the pro-Russian people.
Yeah. So just going back to the tank thing.
Yeah.
Czechoslovakian tanks.
That's what it was. So I don't know exactly what point they rolled into. I don't know if they're just at the border. I don't know if they're actually making an advance all the way to Kyiv. But in other words, to me, you can hit Ukraine all you want in a sense, but as soon as you hit a NATO member's territory or a NATO member piece of equipment that is embodied by that NATO member,
Yeah.
that's when you actually enact a declaration of war. So to me, Czechoslovakian rolling in is their way of saying, you touch us or go past us, now you've declared war on all of NATO.
Yeah, I think they just donated the tanks. They didn't roll in.
Oh, okay.
So
darn. I haven't read much into that.
Yeah,
yet.
The article I have pulled up here says they just donated the tanks to try to resupply Ukraine's tanks supply.
So going to the whole border, I understand that, proxy war. You give money to someone else so that they actually, so they beefing up their defenses, makes it so that we don't have to worry about it as much. I get that. The point that I don't support that is there needs to be an accountability system put in place to say, hey, and they don't talk about it really. I mean, it's just one of those political things that either news reporters aren't asking questions on, politicians aren't speaking on, or just people aren't reporting it because it's not relevant or they don't want to because they know the answer is not what the American people are going to want. Most people aren't going to think like I am on this topic. I want to know there's accountability put in place. If we're donating billions of dollars to foreign countries, I want to know that if they don't use it to where they're supposed to or where they promise, which has been done in the past, what's the consequence?
Mm-hmm.
What do we get out of it? Or are we just shelling more American dollars that we don't have somewhere else, putting the country in more debt? So that's where I'm also against arming somebody else. Part of me is like, look, World War I, what happened? We helped rebuild. World War II, what happened? We helped rebuild. We've gained no territory.
But do we want to be gaining territory? That's the thing.
But then here's the other thing too. What I'm saying is we don't get anything out of the deal. What do we get out of the deal? What have we gotten out of the deal versus the previous two world wars? We got nowhere with the Korean War. We got nowhere with the Vietnam War.
And we've gotten places with the Korean and Vietnam War, aka a lot of dead vets. And I'm not talking about vets that were in the war themselves. I'm talking about even afterwards due to things like Agent Orange and that.
Well, and that's just kind of my thing. It's just like we do all this projection. What do we get out of the deal?
We get dead people, we get debt, and we get to spend more money on taking care of people when they come home injured.
So prior to, I will say one of the things that Trump did do good. I know some people out there hate and are willing to shut off this podcast for this. But one of the things that Trump did do is he walked in and he pretty much said, you guys need to start contributing more of your GDP to NATO. Because prior to Trump, we were pretty much NATO. When you look at the amount that we were funding versus everybody else, we were giving the promise that we 2%. I think it is. You give 2% of your GDP to NATO. We were fulfilling that.
Mostly our countries were not.
Yeah. They were doing 0.5%, some of them, 0.25%.
Yeah.
And you can look all this up online too if you're listening and you wanna do more research on yourself. But prior to Trump, that's what was happening. So when he came into the scenario, he was like, okay, look, we can't be funding this. You guys have to be contributing to it. If you want to be a part of it, you have to meet the basic requirements. But kind of going towards the whole thing with, we funded the rebuilding of the world. We have supported countries when they needed materials, tanks. We have been the producer of that. We have been, long story short, if you look at history, if you take America out of every single major conflict, the world would not be what you know it is today.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's a very good chance that all of Europe and Great Britain would have been under control of the Nazis. Now, which Japan probably have still lost because we would have then put all of our resources to that. I cannot say yes or no because when we were supporting, I forget what act it was, but when we were supporting Great Britain, we were building ships to meet the needs of Great Britain so we could transport the materials to Great Britain. So we already had, in a sense, at that point in time, before Japan even thought about declaring war on us, been militarized. We've converted our factories to start building for other countries. Our shipyards were now producing cargo ships, transport ships. So we had already started that. So if we had not done that, where would we have been with Japan at the time? I don't know. Could have gone longer. Possibly. Could have come to a stalemate to where we would have exhausted ourselves throughout the war. Very possible too. But to me, before we're putting money anywhere else, we should be putting money here, which again brings me back to the whole border wall.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, and I will say this, this is an article from the start of March, so it could have changed since then. Were able to preserve about $2 billion in border wall funding. So that's as of the start of March. That's changed since then. Things could change always.
Have they reactivated the project though?
No, that's the problem. They still got the funding, but they just haven't reactivated. So I love how you were talking about, like, yeah, I could see the money for Ukraine in that, right? I want you to guess 8 of the countries that we're sending money to reinforce and give them enhanced border security.
One is Egypt.
Yep.
Is Turkey one?
No.
Norway.
No.
Sweden.
No. These are all essentially Middle East countries. Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, Tunisia, Oman, Libya, Pakistan, Nepal.
Which brings me to the question. Why are they getting money?
For enhanced border security. That's all
Sure.
That's what the money is allocated for.
I put my money that it is a cover where the American people go, oh, we're helping somebody else's country. No, we're probably giving them a spiff because of something that happened.
So, what?
America loves proxy wars, if you didn't know that.
I don't know much of anything, so.
So, during the Cold War, Russia, or I should say the USSR, advanced onto Afghanistan.
Yep.
Forgive me if I mentioned something wrong, because the Middle East, forgive me for anybody who is of Middle East origin, I don't mean this as an insult, but my mind has always been confused on what countries are where and the importance of these countries in major wars, because whenever you hear about the Middle East, you hear Afghan, Iran, Iraq. Those are the big three that I hear, and there's probably more in there. I apologize, and I also apologize if I speak of the wrong country in a topic of a conflict. But we sent CIA over to train the freedom fighters of Afghanistan and stuff.
Okay.
And we trained them to fight a war on our behalf. Same thing in Ukraine. We've trained them to be an effective fighting force against the Russians, so the Russians just couldn't steamroll into them during the Cold War. They were our enemies, right? Well, we inevitably trained the Taliban, which we ended up fighting for years and years and years and years, which morphed into different groups, which morphed into even more different groups, more extremist groups, and yada, yada, yada. Which at this point now, they control the countries over there. America loves proxy wars.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll continue to, because
absolutely.
If we don't have to be directly involved, which means we don't have to officially declare war, which means we can just spend money, which means we can then impose our will wherever we like. I won't, I'm not, I realize that America in the past has been a very much of a let's expand and fight the war and be the world peacekeeper. And that isn't sustainable, as we're seeing by a budget and everything else.
It's not.
And I don't understand why we're doing enhanced border security for other countries when we can't even do it for ourselves. I just find it funny. Like you go to any other country and you try to get in illegally and you're being sent right back.
Exactly. Or what was it before the Ukraine conflict actually blew up? Maybe it was Poland. There were a bunch of refugees from, I think it was during the Serbian War, the most recent Serbian War. And there was the immigrants were of Middle Eastern origin. And they were trying to get into a country.
Yep.
And the country literally across farm fields and forests had soldiers and hometown militia in arms. And there were pictures of a crowd of people on the other side of a barbed wire makeshift fence. Like these countries were just letting people come into their country. I mean, it's what it is. And I've gotten the conversations with people before, and they're like, well, America was founded on immigration. I get that.
Yeah.
That was when we were founded. And even if the case is only until the 1900s that we actually took an effect of actually trying to create this funnel, the funnel is there for some good reason. I mean, I don't want, even if there's a bunch of other different reasons, if somebody is a criminal in another country, why do I want them in this country? We have enough criminals as it is. So even if that is the only thing that gets vetted, cool. You know, it's just like, let's lower the amount of bad people and let's bring in as many good people. I have one of my classmates and my coworker. She has a friend who their significant other is from Ireland. And to get into Ireland, I think it takes like 2 years or something like that. It's
something like that.
Fraction of the time that it takes to become an American citizen.
Yeah.
He's the type of person you want over here. He's an engineer. Do I remember exactly what type of engineering he does? No. But he's an engineer. He's somebody who's contributing to society. He's contributing to the potential growth of some form of something in this country. That's the kind of people you want, right? Now, in America, I think it's about 5 years before you become a citizen.
I don't know the length because obviously I never had to go through that process. So,
but I do know that if you join military service as you come over here and you get your green card, you can automatically get citizenship. Wow. But then again, you have a 4-year minimum service.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, you have 4 years active duty that you would have to fulfill. Now, I'm not 100% sure on how that relates with National Guard, active duty, and reserves. I don't know, but to my knowledge, that if you join the armed forces and you're active duty, which usually means that you're home for a few odd days a year, otherwise you're at a base here stateside or non-stateside for 4 years, and then you join reserves, you automatically get citizenship. Which, I mean, I think that's a no-brainer at that point, because if where something happens to that person and they can't be a citizen, if they, let's say they don't make it to 4 years, I mean, that's kind of bogus to say, oh yeah, you got to come back and you got a whole nother year, you got to be a
Right.
non-citizen, you know? I mean, but anyways, there's a certain part, I was told when I was younger, there was a certain part in California and there was a wall built, and it was just a small wall because this small town in California was finding that they had a lot of illegals filtering through. And in essence, for those of you who aren't, let's put it like this. The one side doesn't do a good job at showing the benefits of border security, and the other side does a fantastic job of doing what we like to call propaganda. And propaganda only works until you know what it's doing. Okay? History, if you are a history buff, I encourage you to look into the Nazi regime and propaganda, because when television, TV, and all that came out, and they were really able to enhance it, I'm not just saying enhance it, really able to capture the ability of what you could do. Propaganda was probably one of the reasons why Hitler became who he is as easy as he did. And Joseph Goebbels has a phrase. Did I send that to you guys?
You did send that phrase to us,
But
but I think you should still repeat it because obviously those listening on audio cannot see our group text chat.
I would hope not.
Joseph Goebbels was not a lot of countries have this, the propaganda minister during the time that Hitler was in control of Germany. And he's got a bunch of quotes. And like I was saying, the Nazi regime used the ability of television at a level that most people didn't even realize, because for the amount of time that it was out, how do I put it? The Germans have always had this ability to be, in a sense, years ahead of more of the common society in the world. They have always had like a step ahead. Even if it's overly engineered, overly complex, horrible to maintain, they've always been like a step or two ahead of everybody else.
VW.
Yeah.
Anyways, go on.
And so here's some of the quotes from Joseph Goebbels. If you repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it, and you will even come to believe it yourself. Propaganda works. This is another one. Propaganda works best when those who are being manipulated are confident they are acting on their own free will.
I have seen his student in action recently.
Ooh.
And honestly, and I'm being serious. I'm not joking around. Jen Psaki. That's why when you're like, not many people have the propagandist, I was like, we do. Or as people call her, Big Red.
Big Red.
Although she's apparently leaving to MSNBC.
Yeah.
Here's another quote.
But that's beyond that. Oh, another quote.
During a war, news shall be given out for instruction rather than information.
Oh, hi, Psaki.
There is no need for propaganda to be rich in intellectual content.
Why does he keep describing her? Because you sent the screenshot of a video. You did send the link to the video. Thank you.
Yeah.
It wasn't just around the propaganda. It was around kind of like Hitler's rise.
I know, but you could have still sent the link to the video.
I could find it.
This is something I'll say, Josh. You send screenshots of things. You never send links to the sources.
Wait, why don't I have?
It's in our group chat. Anyways, the quote that you were looking for says, propaganda becomes ineffective the moment we become aware of it. That's the one.
What was it? What's his name? Aaron Rodgers said a quote that literally falls right in line with that. And I know everybody's not 100%, a huge fan of Aaron Rodgers, especially after they know what happened last season, and now they know his contract signing for the next 4 years. But he said, science that is not questionable is propaganda.
I agree 100%.
I agree with that too. And kind of going to the border wall with this, one side of the spectrum will, when they, for example, you guys have probably seen pictures like this. There's a wall,
Yeah.
okay, and the essence is a wall doesn't work, and it's either a ladder with people climbing up it, or it's got these two massive car ramps, and a car is literally driving up the ramp to go over the wall. Okay. Those are two common images I have seen, and the argument against during Trump's time, an argument against the border wall is ineffective. Point period. You can find videos on YouTube, people speaking with agents, people out there going along the border talking about it. You can find people out there. The cartel is smart. Okay, they're not stupid. They're smart. They're in the money. They're in the business for money. Okay?
And we're Mexican, so yes, we're smart.
Nice.
You're devious. So, for those of you who aren't aware of what can happen down at the border, when you have various different things where certain people can get in and certain people can't get in, what the cartel will do is they will manipulate and move groups of people around based on where they're coming from and so forth to make it easier for them to get people through. The cartel is making money, period. No matter who gets caught or who doesn't, they can get paid. There's a stretch down in Texas where there's a river. To go from land to the other side of the river will cost a family $5,000. I mean,
and if they're desperate enough, they will try. Yeah, they will pay that.
And I feel bad. I really do feel bad that there are people who are literally selling their homes and everything they have, coming to America seeking a better life. And I want them here. But there has to be a vetting process that they have to go through. And there needs to be an accountability process behind that to ensure that they are who they say and their intent is to come here to live a better life and not one that is of wrongdoing.
And it's not like we don't take refugees. You know, we do take hundreds of thousands of refugees every year.
Whether or not they're vetted properly or not, that's a whole new.
Well, I'm even talking about the ones who go through the process through the proper legal channels and go through the proper. You know, they report to the border and say, "I would like to be a refugee. I'd like to enter your country. I'd like to do this," and then they go through the process legally. You know, we're talking hundreds of thousands a year that we take. I think the last year that I have data for here, 2020, we were down 0.24% in 2020 on the number of refugees, but we're still talking about almost 350,000 refugees that came in legally.
Wow.
We're not even talking about immigrants at that point. You talk about immigrants, immigrants in 2020, we had about 46 million. Was our immigrant population. They don't tell me like how much actually came in that year. It's a weird thing.
Amount of people.
Which, if you look at it and you think about it, Aaron, about 14% of our U.S. population is immigrants.
I mean, technically, 100% of our population.
Ooh.
Well, no, I'm not doing that. But yes, you know, concurrently. Thank you. Concurrently, 14% of our population is immigrants.
Yeah.
And probably a sense of what's it called? First generation.
Yeah.
Immigrants. Yeah. Once you hit second generation, at that point, if you're born here, you're technically not an immigrant.
Right. Exactly. And that's how they're defining it as. If you're not born in the United States, you are considered an immigrant if you come, you know, here, be it legally or illegally. However you get here, however you cross the border, whether it's with
for you,
if it's a coyote that's bringing you across or not. And when I say coyote, just to make Kamala appropriately know what I'm talking about, it's not an animal on four legs.
And certain areas that you can find a border wall, pretty much, I had somebody explain it to me very simply. When you have people crossing, at a certain point in time, so going back to this whole river, okay, you can find a video. He is, in a sense, a journalist, but what he does is he goes and tries to find the raw, unfiltered information from the mouth of the horse itself. You know, he's not trying to find the information through somebody. He's trying to go to the source and get the information unfiltered, raw. And you can find him on YouTube. I forget his name. He's out there. He's done a bunch of stuff, though. So he's down in Texas, and he's on this river, and he's with this. These guys are Mexican, of Mexican descent, and they came here. If they didn't come here illegally, then their parents, and I'm saying that because I don't fully remember their background, but they believe in people coming here legally. And they get pissed off that when people come here illegally, because if they didn't do it the right way, then their parents did it the right way.
Right.
Which gave them the chance to be where they are. They are part of a nonprofit organization that helps in hurricane disasters and stuff like that. They have a bunch of boats at their disposal that they use. And so they're traveling down this river, and they said the funny thing is the cartel, all they have to do is have a raft and get past the halfway point. If they can get to a point where they can dump the family, even if it's before the actual shoreline of the other side of the river, aka the American side, as long as they get back and they're at the halfway point, Border Patrol can't do nothing to them because now they're in Mexico territory.
Yeah.
What they'll do is, if there's a group of people that can't come into the country legally, let's say there's a ban on people coming from that country, they will take a bunch of people and filter them in one direction. You're talking 20, 30 people that can come into the country. Okay, especially at the beginning, my memory's a little blurry here. At the beginning of the Trump administration, there was a deportation ban from people coming from certain countries.
Right.
So they would send those people to the most obvious place possible. The Border Patrol would be like, all right, well, we got 30, 20 people. We got to send the 10 agents that cover 10 miles. We got to send them all here to contain these people, vet them, put them on a bus, and get them into town. Well, when you have all those border agents going to one spot, let's say, I don't know the actual number because that's more of a security thing. Let's say there's an agent per mile covering, one agent per mile covers that area. Keeps an eye out. Horseback, ATV, truck, whatever you call it, plane. Well, when you take a bunch of them and you put them to one spot, now you got this huge gap. So what does the cartel do? The people who have the ban on their country slip them in that way. And then what they'll do is towns inside, past the border, they'll have cartel members pick them up in SUVs and take them further in to different points. And that's probably all based on what they spent money on and if they paid the cartel to take them that much further into the United States. And so what a wall does is wall makes up for those gap in personnel. So let's say you got a mile-long wall. The cartel doesn't necessarily bring you stuff to get you over any obstacle. They just get you to the American side. And if you pay them even more money, then they may help you. Or they may pick you up once you get far enough inland. But if you're just paying the cartel to drop you off at the American border, that's it. They kick you off the raft. They kick you off the truck. Now you got to finish the rest of the journey.
Yep.
And so if these people are coming and they got this wall and they don't have I don't even know how high the wall is, a 25, a ladder that can do 50 feet. I don't know. Well, you can get up one side, but now you got to get down the other side. So in essence, for people who do or do not agree, a wall is only a deterrent factor. It's not a bulletproof option. The intent of the wall is instead of having to put like a border agent every 10th of a mile, you in a sense could put a border agent every 1 mile. Because if you put the gaps between the walls in a sense a mile apart, you have a border agent between each gap. Everybody has to funnel into one spot.
Sorry, I was just laughing to myself because just a little second ago you were like, "Oh yeah, 1 border agent per mile." Now it's 1/10 of a mile, and I was like, "Wait a minute."
Well, for it to be effective, to make a human wall is what I'm kind of getting.
If you want to make it a human wall, that'd be entertaining. Climb over Aaron.
But in a sense of being captured, not being captured, but even the people who didn't have a deportation ban on them, they wanted to get captured. Because that means that's the faster that they're out of the desert, the faster they are from anything that could possibly kill them. And the sooner they are in town with a pamphlet, bag of money, and now they get shot somewhere else in the U.S.
Yeah, the whole border situation is a little crazy.
Sounds like a mess.
It does.
It is.
It's hard because we have such a long distance to cover. And that's not even considering the water entries.
Right.
boats, and then you got planes, and here's
The planes are at least a little bit easier to track because they can at least, as long as they have the proper equipment, which if they're doing nefarious stuff, we're not going to necessarily have that.
I know somebody.
Oh boy.
There's a buddy who went to high school with, and this guy apparently buys weed in LA, throws it on his undercarry suitcase, and goes down to Mexico and he sells it.
Okay.
He says only 20 out of the 150 bags get sniffed, and if you wrap it right, it's hard for the dogs to smell. I've been doing this for 5 years. I haven't been caught yet. Talking about living life on the edge. And that's just to go out of the country.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and that just makes me question. It's like, I mean, if that's stuff going out of the country,
what's coming in?
Yeah, what's coming in?
Oh, what's coming in is
astronomical.
A lot worse. Let me just put it that way. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Just watch Narcos. I mean,
okay, that's a
I know,
show.
but like it shows just like what they do to get it in. So I mean, if so much, well, it's not also. I mean, it's based on like Pablo Escobar stuff, but like,
yeah,
if what they showed coming in then was legit, they're probably doing more now.
I guarantee you they're doing more now.
Yeah,
just because of the fact, and they're finding ways to do it easier and easier and easier. And
just gotta get creative with it, you know?
The longer that Washington argues on a topic, the more stuff gets in, the more stuff happens.
Well, here's my view on it. By the time Washington passes a law on something, it's already a few years out of date.
That's fair.
In all of our laws for crime and all that, and I'm not talking about any one particular type of crime, I'm talking all sorts of crimes, are so far behind the digital age that they can't keep up with how the digital age is transforming.
But even then, I mean, if they choose to put a law in place, you can find the specifics on that law if you look deep enough. And even if it is up to date, it takes so long for them to enact it.
Yeah.
That you can already have a resolution on how to get past the law before the law is even actually. Well, okay, let's put it like this. You can pass it, but now you have to familiarize your agents, your law enforcement, whoever it may need to be on that law, how to process that law, how to approach that law, this and that. Even if it takes a few years to put a law in place, before they already know how to avoid that law if need be.
Yep. So I'm not looking forward to the future where they want to do away with borders, and then you add in the metaverse, and regardless. See, I put in the notes like Josh's thoughts, catch up with Josh and thoughts on 1, 2, 3, 4 things. We got through one of the 4 so far. See, told you, 2-parter. This actually might be a 3-parter.
Oh, it might be. You're welcome.
Josh, do you have anything else to say on the border? I don't know if you could at this point.
He doesn't have more.
Oh
no, but no, you're good.
Just besides the fact that it's literally just been this pathetic political spin on both sides of the spectrum. I bring it back to the this is just a quick thing here. I bring it back to the comment that I know somebody that made, and the years ago. For those of you who don't know, or may want a little refresher, Chick-fil-A came out saying that they were not for same-sexual marriage. At a corporate level, they came out saying that the company does not, in a sense, support that. And I don't know how that entails their hiring process. I don't think that negates their hiring process, but they, I think, as a corporation, would not come out and support any groups or any activities that, or organizations, I should say, in a sense, that are for the same-sex marriage. Male and male, female and female, dinosaur and dinosaur, truck and truck, you name it. Whatever you identify as. They're not for it. But I had somebody that I know go, oh, that homophobic chicken is pretty good. I'm not going to buy it because it's homophobic chicken. And I always laugh at that. because the kind of thing with Disney that came out recently,
Oh, groomer Disney.
and how corporations themselves, I would put my money on the table to say that more than 50% of the corporations in America don't actually support same-sex marriage, but will do it societally for profit and profit only. And so that's where I make the argument in a sense of people that go homophobic chicken. I'm like, at least they're willing to say it, and all the other brands you buy from are probably not, because they just want to take your money. Disney, an example, we've seen.
See, but I feel like Disney is actually about it, though.
I don't.
Well, one of their people was saying that they want to add in a lot more. How did she
Queer.
put it? Queerness into their products.
And
So
believe it or
show-
not, they actually had a scene built into the new Buzz Lightyear movie that showed two girls kissing, and they plucked it from it.
And then they reinstated it.
And they reinstated it with this "Don't Say Gay" bill and their uproar of fellow Disney employees and stuff like that. They reinstated it. And so that is just an example of the artists and the director may have actually formulated that movie to be that way, and the corporate Disney said, pluck that out. But then when they got resistance, they're like, we can't lose profit. Put it back in. So again, I'm willing to put my money on the fact that more than 50% of corporations in America are still not on that, still don't support that. And if they do, it's because they're doing it from a profit standpoint, not actually a personal standpoint.
Right.
So
okay.
for people who say Chick-fil-A chicken is homo, I didn't realize that chickens could be homo. But anyways, going off of that, bringing that towards the border wall.
Where does this tie in?
Well, here's where it ties in.
All right. Bring me around.
Politicians have been good at making society feel comfortable by giving them what they want to hear, but they may not actually support that at all. You see it on a corporate version of America, and in all honesty, the government is a failed corporation. That's what it is. They don't make any profit. A corporation, an effective, good corporation, makes money.
Yeah.
A failed corporation does not. And the United States is not about making money by any means.
No,
They'll make money on deals. But if we were really good at making money, we wouldn't be in debt.
Well, and if we don't want to be in debt, that means they're going to have to raise our taxes. Yay.
Well, actually, besides from that, if we don't want to be in debt, it's about cutting off a boatload of benefits and programs.
Or maybe not sending money overseas.
Or stop handing checks out to people without them paying you back.
AKA enhanced border enhancement in other countries.
And actually, that can bring us to another topic.
Oh boy, I want to hear which one. Which one, Josh?
Abortion.